This is the Power Element Podcast, episode 54. All right, my name is Paul. I produce podcast. I am a journeyman lineman by trade. Today, we have a special guest, Brian Abrams, the Director of Design and Development of Dragonwear. Speaking of Dragonwear, partnered up with them. We have a series of episodes coming out this month. Had a great time, great experience with Dragonwear. Went up to the headquarters in Seattle, sat down. You're going to really enjoy this series of episodes. Be sure you are following and subscribe to us so you don't miss any of these episodes. All right, we'll get to the show, but first let me highlight our promotional partner. Only one, Dragonwear. Dragonwear's new Cat 2 High-Vis Yellow Pro Dry Tech long sleeve shirt is now available, along with the Cat 2 Khaki long sleeve and hooded designs dropping on July 15th. Enjoy 20% off all Dragonwear gear with code DWX Power Element Pod 20. Once again, that's DWX Power Element Pod 20. One word, I'll put it in the show notes. It's going to be until July 31st at dragonwear.com. 20% off. You're not going to find a better deal. Utilize this code now. Get over there. Dragonwear.com. All right. Special thank you to Lyman Mama, High Voltage Commando, and High Voltage Industries. Last but not least, I want to thank the entire Sturgeon Electric California workforce. Without you, this podcast would not be possible. All right, let's get to the show. Power Element Podcast. Dragonwear. Enjoy the show. One day you would tell your story of how you overcome what you went through, and it will be someone else's survival guide from Brian Abrams. Nice little author, speaker. Speaking of speaker, next guest, Brian. How we doing, brother?
Doing great, man.
What's your role here at Dragonwear besides Director of Biceps Development over here?
I'm the Director of Design and Development.
What does that look like? What's that role look like for you?
Product creation.
How did, actually, you know what? We'll pause there. Give us a little intro more about yourself. Where'd you grow up? What'd that look like?
Found my way out west from Chicago. So grew up in the Midwest and went to college in the Midwest. And seemed like every vacation I was having, I was coming out to the West to go backpacking or climbing or something like that. And finally I decided that it would make a little more sense to live here. So packed the bags at, I think I was just about 27 or 30, and came out here and never looked back since, and best decision of my life.
And the draw was the outdoors?
Absolutely. The only draw.
What's it about the outdoors that kind of gets you going?
I think it's just the outdoors in general. I've grown up around this stuff. My father had always taken me to national parks when I was a kid. I got hooked early, fishing and camping, hunting, things like that. And it's been in the blood, and it's kind of a family thing, and ended up here and just as passionate today about it as I was the day I got here.
What was some of the values your dad taught you about the outdoors that you kind of still carry with you?
I think just the appreciation of him, more than anything else. I think he was a pretty straight guy, ex-Army Ranger guy, and pretty solid, pretty straight, pretty strict, and I think it was a good foundation.
How does one show appreciation for the outdoors?
Giving back. Every year I do some work out on the trails, donate time to help and do work in the parks and all that. So I usually spend some days every summer doing that.
I think a pretty common thread on people who give back, outdoors, outdoor community, trails, hiking, hunters, fishers, they're always probably the best advocates to give back and make sure you preserve. They never complain about the fees or the take an extra step to leave it better than you found it. So I think it's pretty unique.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly how it is.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it's just that appreciation factor. I never seem to mind, the various permits to pay and entry fees and all that. I know it's always for a good cause, and even if I cancel a permit, never care about getting the money back. It's always knowing it's going for a good cause. So, it takes a lot of effort to keep those parks and the trails up. I don't think everybody appreciates how hard it really is.
Are you able to correlate that appreciation for the outdoors or just that passion for the outdoors into your professional life, kind of what you do now? We're going to get to what you do now, but I think just that appreciation value does help you become a better person towards what you do.
I think it's all rooted in work ethic.
Yeah.
I think it's and that is one of the big values. I guess you asked about my father. I think that would probably be number one.
Your father sounded like he worked hard too, and taught you a lot about that.
Yeah, a lot about that.
That's cool, man. Speaking of work, how did you get started? What kind of happened after high school? You said you went to college a little bit. What was that like? You don't seem like you don't strike me as a big college guy, but
I actually was. I went to college on an athletic scholarship.
I didn't mean to offense to that either. So.
Yeah, I was did quite a bit with school, and it didn't turn out like it was something that I wanted to do. Although I still was an honors graduate.
There you go.
And through college, I participated in sports. I was an NC2A All-American. And
what sport?
Gymnastics.
Nice.
So I went to a school that was really big for that, one of the top schools in the country, and that was really good. But I had a degree in business and accounting, and I didn't really feel like that was quite my thing. So even though I did that, I never participated in it a single day. But I think it was a good background.
Yeah, absolutely.
For something.
So what happened after college?
I went on an entrepreneurial road, and up until joining True North, my entire career was based on entrepreneurial endeavors.
Can you talk about that? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything you share?
I think I just learned a lot about starting companies, building brands, and it comes back to that work ethic of what it takes to run your own deal, and then an opportunity presented here, and decided to change the course a little bit at the sort of the last chapter of the book.
I got you. How about kind of working with regards to around special forces and what that looked like?
I spent about 20 years working with military on in a lot of different capacities. The beginning part of it was I spent a lot of time in the mountains training elite forces, strictly Tier 1 operators, special forces, Marine recon units, SEAL teams, on life in the mountains, traveling from point A to point B safely, navigating terrain, vertical danger zones, winter survival, Arctic operations, ski maneuvers, all that kind of stuff. So I was deep into that. It was part of my personal expertise, and somehow I was able to find a way to create that into a business for myself.
What do you kind of, what's the goal, I think, with that training, I guess? I mean, obviously survival, but is there a mentality piece to that too? I think it takes a different breed to want to just endure that kind of weather hazards, that climate, that geography.
It didn't really seem that unfamiliar. Is what I did in my personal life. So doing it for work with other people, I mean, other than the training element of it, it seemed very familiar, comfortable, as uncomfortable as it could be. It actually felt quite comfortable. So that was one of the first dominoes, and dominoes started to tip from there. Different opportunities presented as, once you get established as a subject matter expert, it opened up a lot of doors.
What was exactly your expertise? What was something that you kind of were acknowledged to be the expert about? Just that?
All things mountain.
Jackie gave me the noise picks up right there. No problem. No harm, no foul. You're going up into the mountain, and you have yourself and your knowledge. How important is that gear that you're taking up there with you? And obviously, There's got to be some strategy into what you're taking up with you, correct?
Yeah.
Gear and equipment. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The gear is really important. In some cases, it's life and death type of stuff, and having really good gear that is dependable is really you don't really appreciate it until I think you're in places and positions where it really stands out. I mean, I think going out on a casual hike and wearing a hiking shirt or a hiking pant or something, I don't think you fully can appreciate something until you're in a different kind of environment with it. So I was always like a gear guy. So I was, as I use that stuff in my own personal endeavors, a lot of the aspects of it became really important to me, and how it performed, how it fit, even how it looked. That was always important. It still is.
Alex kind of shared a story earlier on the podcast we did with them about how he took a design of a pack, I guess a waist pack, and put the suspenders on it. So you took a product that needed some enhancement. Was there any opportunity for that kind of in your line of work?
That's pretty much every day.
Yeah.
I think, I think that's one of the things that's really attractive about True North and the industries they're in. I think there's huge room for that in the industry itself. So that really appeals to me.
How about just quality of gear too and equipment? Like definitely when your life's on the line, you want something that's tried and true and has had a good reputation, right? I mean, what's that look like?
Yeah, it makes me think of a short story that a friend of mine who came out of the SEAL teams, and we started our companies at the exact same time, and he was the founder of Black Hawk Industries, which is a tactical company. And how his company started was he was deployed somewhere and he was crossing a minefield, and the pack that he was wearing, this is a true story,
Absolutely.
The pack that he was wearing, his shoulder straps blew out, and he's navigating a minefield. So it created a pretty serious situation for him, and he came back after 13 years in and said to himself that this is an opportunity to make a better pack, and that's how the company started, and it was really an inspiring story to me. It really hit home, and I think a lot about that back in those days, designing products for elite operators and what that product meant, and beyond just its functional aspect.
What's beyond that aspect?
Just as you pointed out, that reliability, the durability aspect. I mean, the function is really important, right? I mean, a pack should hold certain things that it's designed for. It should be comfortable. Those are givens. But it should also be able to stand the test of time. And when you work in an industry like for professional end users, just like we do here,
yeah,
that is amplified because its products are used every single day instead of on a weekend or once a month. They're used every single day. So I think that that reliability from the user is critical.
How important is that not only the reliability but that feedback, especially in those developmental? Maybe it might be a prototype piece of gear equipment. What's that like? How important is that?
Yeah, I think feedback's good. I think what's really even more important is a thorough understanding on the front end of developing products, to understand who's using the product, how they're using the product, what are expectations of that user group. And if you do your homework and you do that correctly, you're probably going to have less feedback than more.
Yeah.
Less negative feedback.
Sure.
That's for sure.
When you're designing things, and obviously it sounds like your entrepreneur kind of led you to design products and gear for special forces. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. When you're when you're creating something for special forces, obviously there's they got a job to do. It's specific. It's geared to be the best of the best. What kind of things are you building that product around? Is there some core values that you kind of take in? Like this has got to be X, Y, and Z. What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's what spawned a business. I think what I came to understand after working on the training side and training these types of guys, what became obvious after some time was to think of them in, as I did in my own life as a performance athlete. I thought about products I used in to enhance my performance, right, or not get in the way of my performance. And I think when designs really started taking root for me is when I recognized those people as performance athletes. They weren't called performance athletes, but in my mind they were. And I kind of feel the same way today about the two primary business sectors that we're serving, the utility linemen and utility people, as well as the wildland firefighters. I see a lot of the same in those people. You know, they're professional end users. They work in a capacity of first responder. They're using their gear really hard. They really depend on it. It's important to not only their job but to their life as well. So it feels really familiar to me. It's like it's exactly how I approach things over the last 30 years. It's just a different end user. So same kind of thoughts, same kind of ideas, and the values of those people really aren't much different. And actually, it seems that an awful lot of those spaces, utility and wildland firefighter, come from military and tactical backgrounds, and so I can identify with a lot of those folks.
Yeah, and I think you've seen the shift too. Now we talk about the ProDrive Tech 4-way stretch. And we'll get to Dragonware, but I'm just making the sample here is that we've seen gear, apparel evolve into meet the needs of that athlete, of that demand, not only to provide that safety, that FR factor when we talk about utility workers, but the factors how it regulates body temperature or helps keep you cool, or sun protection with the hood. Just stuff like that is we've evolved to learn and get better and strive to give feedback to Dragonware and help solve these problems. I think that's important too. And I think that feedback that you got from Special Forces about where that gap is kind of why you're such a key part of this Dragonware team.
You know, some of the functions of the products are really a given. And part of the functions of the products, you know, are tied to the fabrics. And because we're in industries that have regulations, regulated fabrics and requirements and specifications, et cetera, in some ways it makes it easier. It makes it harder in some ways too, because, you know, you're limited. So some of your ability to go where you would normally go in another industry, you can't do that. So I think it even puts more emphasis on the design of the garment itself, because the fabrics, there's only so many fabrics that meet these specifications. And fortunately, we've been on the front end of development of a lot of those. You know, we've been an industry leader in that, and you know, that's pretty cool. And I don't see that changing at all. But I think if we can look at the design side a little more carefully, and we look at industries, and the industries feel very familiar also. The utility industry and the wildland industry feels very familiar and much like the military did back when I started in the early 90s. And there's been products, they've existed for a long time. There's been little change to those products, and it takes somebody or a company or some catalyst to bring about change. There has to be, in order for there to be a paradigm shift, someone has to push that edge. And that happened in military. The products didn't change for 30, 40 years. They looked the same decade after decade after decade. And then all of a sudden, within a 5, 6, 7 year period, it changed more than it had in 40 years before that. And I get the same sense here.
Yeah, I think it's always that proactive approach. Yeah, I think in all three sectors, military, wildland, and utility, if you're not proactive, then you always see that change reactive to either a fatality or severe injury. So I think always looking at design, look at product development. I'll let you speak about that, but or anything in regards to that. But I'm just trying to make a point is being proactive is beneficial to everyone, and we can all gain value in that. You have anything to add to that?
Well, the exciting part for me is to be an impact player,
Sure.
to make a difference. I'm not interested in just designing a basic T-shirt. That doesn't really interest me much. And what I love about True North in the leadership team here is we're all on the same page. Everybody wants to create the best possible products. So that's what really, I think, drew me in, is the appetite they have to try to take our leadership position and now grab a gear and go to that next level. And hopefully I'll be able to help them do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll shift to Dragonware, but I wanted to ask you about the common thread when you're designing, when you design sleeping bags, gear bags, clothing systems. Is there anything that just is commonly fundamental about that design or those products? They're super separate in the functionality and what they're used for, but is there anything that just has to be a part of that design?
I think it's more philosophical. I think every company has their own design philosophies, and I think our design philosophy is centered around premium product. And what does that really mean? It extends beyond fabric. It incorporates fabric and design and fit. It's a whole bunch of things. Again, the functionality of it, what the product's supposed to do at the end of the day, that's pretty much a given. It's how you get there that I think is really important. So taking cues from other industries, and what is making those industries successful? What are things that are appealing to the customers in those industries? There's a lot of learning, from that. So I look at a lot of industries for inspiration, all different kinds of industries, and I definitely look at a lot of products from different parts of the world, just to inspire design.
Absolutely. Going straight to Dragonware, I wanted to ask you if you have a set of core values that you go into the design that pretty much align with True North Dragonware into what they believe. Is that something that just kind of aligns naturally?
Yeah, I think it aligns naturally. It's nothing I consciously think about. I think it comes back to what I just mentioned. I don't know how to make any other products other than premium products. It's all I've ever done. I mean, there's nothing wrong with low-end products or price point products or mid-tier products. That's great. I just never have done that, so I don't know a whole bunch about that. So I just think of premium. And actually, when we do a design, if we start that design and build it to the very best we can, and whether it's the fabric or the feature set, if we have to bring back something from price, it never changes the quality. So when we bring back a product, come backwards in price, it would never have anything to do with the quality. It would never have anything to do with the fabric or the product quality. What it would only have to do with is the feature set. So instead of 3 pockets, maybe there's 2, but it has nothing to do with the way we build the product, our quality standards, the fabrics we choose.
Dude, that aligns so much with what we talk about Sturgeon Electric California, as we talk about setting a high standard within amongst the crews. You go out, you do the job to the highest standard. You set it high. So when you do, as humans, we naturally deviate from that high standard. But when you deviate from a high standard, the standard is still high. You're still good. You're still within that means of what's expected and what would pass as quality acceptable, I guess. But I think that's what kind of where that people recognize Dragonwear as being a high quality, high performance piece of gear, apparel, equipment.
Yeah, I mean, we've done some amazing work on fabric development. We have great in-house knowledge on that, and I don't know a real lot about all the companies out there, but one thing that I really love about the company here is the investment, and I don't just mean financially. I mean the emotional investment that the company's made into design and the product. That's I think really huge. Nobody's ever telling me to try to figure out how to make the cheapest product.
Yeah, I got you.
What they always are talking about is how do we make the best product.
No, linemen don't care about price because they just want it for free. So you're good. That's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. How did the journey to Dragonwear start? What was that conversation like? Were they seeking out a person like you? Were you seeking out a company like them? What's that conversation look like? And if I can get you to take a little step forward in the seat, get you a little closer to that mic. There you go.
Just timing kind of lined up. I've known the Alex and Steve for many years, and we've even collaborated on some projects together through the years. And my timing, I think what really wound up happening is Steve, our president, was a big fan of a lot of the products that I designed, and he just bought a lot of the things that I make. And somehow we started talking more and more about that. We were friends outside of the business, and we had raced together. We'd run together. We share a common thread of trail runs and races. So we knew each other like that, but we never really talked too much. We never talked really that much about working together like this. We talked about it more from a collaboration joint venture standpoint, which we did a few years back. And then somehow last year we were talking, and Steve needed some help on a few specific things. I had a little bit of time. I committed a certain amount of hours a week to help, and we didn't know it at the time, but that sort of led to where we are today. It was just maybe we did know it. Maybe we both dipped our toes in the water a little bit, get to know each other a little, see what life is like inside of here, what their needs are. Steve got a better opportunity to see a little more about what I do and how I think, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
What's your collaboration with Michael like? Your partnership, you work alongside him close. What's that look like?
Yeah, Michael's been great. I knew Michael. That's how we actually met. That's how I originally was introduced to Alex and Steve, through Michael. Michael was working at Polartec in FR Fabrics, and True North or Dragonwear was working with him in that realm, fabric development for the utility space back then. And I was doing the exact same thing for the military. I was using FR Fabrics and a lot of military designs. And Michael said, wow, you guys should meet. He actually set it up. So I lived out here, and 15 years ago, me, Alex, and Steve had dinner one night, and we stayed in touch throughout all these years. And 15 years later, I'm working with him.
I mean, how do you play off him? How does he play off you? How do you guys use each other's strengths into designing? I mean, what's that look like? The development.
Yeah, I feel like.
Man, you thought we were just gonna talk shirts and hats and stuff, man.
You're making it tough. I thought I really kind of feel like Steve is almost like like my design partner in a way. We do a lot of stuff outside of out of the office in the mountains. We still share that same love of adventure and running and doing all those things. And it seems like the majority of the time that we're out doing that, we're driving to wherever we're going, we're always talking about product, hours and hours of talking about product. Yeah. You wouldn't think you could talk about product as many hours as we talk about it, but we do a lot. And he fills in a lot of the blanks from the industry perspective that I don't have yet.
Sure.
And as we're both technical users in our personal life, so I think it's led to a lot of great ideas. And I think in this next year or two, a lot of those conversations are going to be we're going to have tangible evidence of those conversations in this next year or two.
Awesome. Can't wait. Is there a difference in design or approach when you're talking about FR to non-FR?
That's a really good question. You know, there may be, but I'm not thinking of it like that. So the fabric property, you know, you're using an appropriate fabric for whatever the design intention is, whatever the end user's need is, right? Whether it's wickability, whether it's a high aerobic activity, whether it's body armor, whatever it is. So I don't really think too much about that. So if we choose a fabric like this high vis yellow, and it needs to be yellow and it needs to be FR, then we use that. And how do we make it into a really cool, great product? So I think that I think one of the things going forward that is really appealing to me from a design perspective is how do we merge a technical fabric that has a certain performance aspect characteristic to it into a product that is more than just workwear. And that's ultimately what I'm thinking a lot about. Obviously we make workwear, but how do we make workwear more than workwear? How do we make that broader? How do we extend it? Can we extend it? Can the product be so good, so comfortable that we make it into a 7-day-a-week wear? And I'll actually tell you a couple of our fabrics, and it's not really a plug for our company. We have a couple of our fabrics, and I have a few of our shirts and knit hats and things like that. And I wear them all the time when I'm doing high performance stuff. I can wear anything. Absolutely. I have a huge gear room at my house that has everything. And I wear those all the time. It doesn't matter that the logo's on. I could care less that the logo's on it. But it's just a great fabric. And oh, by the way, it happens to be FR. I don't need it for what I'm doing, but that's a real testament to our fabric developer, Mike, and what he's created in some of those fabrics, that they're so comfortable that I'm choosing to wear it when I can wear anything.
No, absolutely. And perfect example for us is Dragonwear does provide a sponsorship partnership to our rodeo team. Rodeo's a training scenario where no voltage is induced to the lines. So it's a simulated events, and you don't need FR, but the team chooses and wants to compete in Pro Dry Tech with hood. And that's because of the comfort, the breathability, and the four-way stretch. They feel good in it. They look good in it. There's a team unison in that unified look, and they love it. We could easily go to a performance company and get some sports apparel, but we want to represent the brand, and it's easy to work with it. And I think to the early point is FR too is you're coming out of the air after a long day's work, and your FR's heavy, it's wet, you can't breathe in it, your body temperature is going high, and you take that thing off, and once you're driving into the yard or going to another job, but you couldn't wait to get out of that material because it was just soaked and your body was hot. But once you come out with the Dragonwear, you're fine, you feel fine.
Yeah, no, that's no different than any kind of aerobic sport. The same thing. We've all worn nylon shirts and polyester shirts that soak and they never dry, and we first thing we do when we get back to the car after a run is we want to change out of it, right? So, yeah, that's it's a special fabric for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. When you became a part of the Dragonwear True North team, what value did you bring with your expertise? Was there any goals to make an impact, or how did you want to contribute to the team?
I think the combination of all the years of making product for professional end users who demanded the absolute highest performing products, I think that combined with stylized garments, with a modern look. I mean, let's face it, people do care about appearance, and they care about it more today than they did 30 years ago. It's a new, younger generation now coming up, right? younger people, and they think very differently than my father's generation, who was wearing workwear. It's very, very different. So I think having the ability to have great performing product with great fabrics and all that's absolute. It's a must. But it doesn't mean they can't look really good too. Doesn't mean they can't fit good, feel good, and look good.
Absolutely. We've kind of went over through your story, and at no point in time did you say you spent time as a wildline firefighter or a utility worker, but you're being asked to design clothing and apparel for gear, however you want to look at it, for these trades and sectors. How do you shorten those gaps to ensure that you're meeting those needs of the end user?
Being that the fact that I didn't come from that background?
Correct, yeah.
That's another good question. It's not as hard as you might think. What I did when I first joined is I spent probably almost every single night watching as many videos, YouTube videos for all these industries as I could, just to better understand what a day in a life is, but not even so much the job function, but what does that worker look like? Who is he? How does he carry himself? What is he doing when he's working, and what is he doing when he's not working? So I think those things were really helpful for me to better understand. And a lot of the people in the company have filled in any blanks or questions that I might have. But I think just getting doing a thorough deep dive into the industries, getting a good feel for what the guys do day in and day out, gives me a lot of confidence in the ability to design.
Along the same lines, you have no skin in the game. Why are you so passionate about it? What makes you just kind of get up and want to be the best at that?
Yeah, I'm pretty obsessive. Well, I think first of all, I'm just obsessive about product in general, and I'm every bit as passionate today as I was 30 years ago when I started designing products. I've designed hundreds and hundreds of products through those years, and I still love doing it. It doesn't feel any different to me, and I think the opportunity for True North to continue to lead and to even take a bigger leadership position is really appealing to me. I love that they have commitment to fabric innovation, and we've got expertise in house that is, really awesome. Michael's, he's just a ton of knowledge, and it really helps me a lot. Him and I talk all the time, so we're both sort of like co-design directors, really. And I think the last chapter of the book is all about making impact into performance workwear. So I'm thinking about it as performance workwear.
That's dope. That's a good word. I think that's easily applied to how we do and how that we ask.
Yeah, I don't think about it as workwear. When I think of workwear, I think of old school. I think of heavy. I think of lack of mobility. I think of no breathability. I think of hot. I think of uncomfortable. I think of all kinds of things. But my view is about performance workwear, and what does that look like for True North? How do we define that?
Absolutely. Is there anything you can kind of share as far as the future evolution of what next level innovation, whether it's fabric or design, what that looks like? I know they're probably got some things on the wrap, but is there anything you can share with the audience?
Yeah, I think I mentioned a little bit before. I talked about 7-day wearability. Saturday, we kind of refer to that as Saturday to Saturday wearability. I mean, you see it today a lot, right? When you look at outdoor lifestyle apparel, you see clothes today that allow people to wear. They're wearing it to work, they're wearing it after work, and they're wearing it on the weekends. It transcends all those things. And I don't see any reason why our workwear can't do the same thing. So I think that's one element, having the ability to have a broader base wear cycle of the product so that we don't have to have a separate rack in our closet for just workwear And then we have our lifestyle product. How does that divider that you currently have in your closet, how does that divider get removed and those garments become one and the same? I think that's one thing. And I think the other thing is to think about products in a more systems configuration, a more systems oriented relationship. And that's how we did it in military. There's in the military today, there's many different types of systems. There's all kinds of different systems. And how can we take products from the inside out, meaning next to the skin to the outermost layer, how can we make those so they work in conjunction with each other in a layering concept where they make sense, they integrate, and they perform well, and more or less that 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah. Good point.
That's what I'm thinking about. 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah. You guys better be following Dragonware on Instagram and head to the website, sign up for the newsletter. Make sure you're going to miss any of these brand new things, right?
I think that'd be a really good idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Stay hooked in because there's going to be some cool stuff coming for sure.
That's dope, man. It's hard to think that some of these designs or products can get better because it's already such a top notch. That's cool.
Yeah. There's some really cool stuff that's coming.
Brian, we can wrap this up, but I want to make sure you have is there anything else you want to touch on? Did we didn't cover anything you want to cover?
No, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Hopefully I answered your questions.
No, man, you did great. Appreciate you sharing your story, and definitely get a sense of your passion and what that looks like. And you've definitely set that bar high and that standard. And I think that path for you to be a part of the Dragonware True North team was always kind of in line, and I think it's a good fit just from an outside perspective. So I think that's kind of cool.
There is one more thing I would say, where personal life merges and blurs the line with work life for me is I kind of feel this whole design thing and product development and everything. I feel like it's very much like the normal everyday training I do, and I race a lot. I'm always doing running races, trail running races and things, and just did one on Sunday, matter of fact. And you prepare a lot for those races. So you don't have to, right? So there's, maybe there's 500 people at Sunday's race. And many of them are prepared and are going there because they want to do the best they possibly can. Some of them are there just because they want to be involved in the event itself. They want the social element of it. Some are there just because they want the challenge of just finishing it. All those things are great, and they're really important. I think when I go to a race, for me, I'm only thinking about one thing, and that's the best I can do. I'm thinking about the podium, and I think that's how I'm thinking about our products here. I don't want to create just average products. They don't need me to create average products. So how do we get to the podium? What does the training look like? What does the process look like to do it? It takes a lot of work on the front end if you're going to be on the podium. There's only 3 spots on the podium. So the same thing happens here. It takes a lot of work and a lot of commitment, and we have an amazing team throughout all the departments, and everybody shares the same alignment on that. So, I think I'm pretty lucky to be surrounded with it.
Absolutely, and that's the culture here, and that's great. I can totally attest to that. So with that, we're going to wrap it up, man. That was a great ending right there. So appreciate you sharing your story. And you're going to Mount Rainier tonight, right?
I am. I'm going to be spending the night hours up at Mount Rainier tonight.
Hopefully wearing some Dragonware.
I'm sure I will. I have a knit hat in there, and I'll be freezing my butt off, photographing the night sky tonight and doing a long run.
That's dope. Good luck. Have fun.
Okay, man. Thanks.
All right, Dragonware's new Cat 2 High-Vis Yellow Pro Dry Tech long sleeve shirt is now available along with the Cat 2 Khaki long sleeve and hooded designs dropping on July 15th. Sorry, kind of messed it up at the end. But enjoy 20% off of all Dragonware gear with the code DWX Power Element Pod 20. Once again, DWX Power Element Pod 20. I'll put that in the show notes. Going to be available until July 31st. Dragonware.com. We'll see you guys.